Now, the latest episode of Danny Kelly's Trans-Europe Express is available via all your favourite podcast providers. This week, Danny's joined by Kevin Hatchard. Not surprisingly, he was full of praise for Barcelona and Hansi Flick following their 4-0 mauling of Real Madrid at the weekend.
I think what he's done with Lewandowski is extraordinary because we know how well he looks after himself. We know the fitness that he has, but last season, he did look a little jaded and he looked as though he wasn't the player that he has been for so long at the elite level. And you look at his stats now, Danny, 17 goals in 14 games, 10 in his last 5. He scored multiple goals 6 times already this season. He looks razor sharp. The header for his second goal in this game was terrific. Classic Lewandowski.
Yeah, classic Lewandowski, and what a run he is having at the moment. Joining us for more on this now, Spanish football expert Semra Hunter. Morning, Semra.
Morning, Semra.
Good morning.
Oh, you sound very bright and breezy. I don't think Carlo Ancelotti will be sounding like you this morning. I want to start with Real Madrid and Ancelotti, Semra, because they're 6 points behind already in the title race. He has to be, regardless of who he is, he has to be under pressure, doesn't he?
Of course, and he will be, because it is Real Madrid, and the knives will start to come out and everybody will start pointing the finger at him and everyone will start sounding the alarm bells and saying, oh, crisis, and it's a big problem and it's a big deal. The thing is with Real Madrid, they've shown us time and time again they can play terribly and then still go on to win the Champions League and La Liga. And Carlo Ancelotti himself was very quick to point out that the last time they lost 4-0 to Barcelona, they won La Liga and they won the Champions League. So he does have arguments to say it's still very early on in the season. There's still lots of work to be done. Typically, this is that moment in the season where we're just still figuring things out. We're not playing well, but we're still winning games. But nonetheless, 6 points is a big gap. Can they overcome it? Absolutely. There's still plenty of time for that to happen. But nonetheless, it's not a position that you want to be in at this stage of the season. And you don't want to be beaten comprehensively at home by your biggest rival in Spain, Barcelona. So there's no question that there's going to be a lot of questions asked of Carlo Ancelotti, and he has to be prepared to answer them.
Semra, a couple of players I want to ask you about because we do miss some of the games. How is Jude Bellingham doing, and what about Mbappe? How's he doing?
So Jude Bellingham, let's start there. He's not the Jude Bellingham of last season. Last season, he hit the ground running straight away. He walked in with this huge presence to say, I'm here, I'm the leader, I'll take responsibility, especially because Vinicius Jr. was injured at the earlier stages of the season. So he took up that responsibility beautifully. He was scoring a lot of goals. He was playing in a different position. He was closer to the box. He was getting into the box more often. He was really playing like the box-to-box midfielder that he is. But Carlo Ancelotti was very smart in terms of tactically how to get the best out of Jude Bellingham. So oftentimes he was the one that was coming to the aid, coming to the rescue, scoring very late goals to make sure that they would either get a draw or a win. This season, he hasn't quite hit that same form. I think a lot of it perhaps has to do with the fact that at the end of last season, he started picking up a lot of injuries. There was the shoulder, and then I can't remember if it was the ankle or something else, but he was dealing with a couple of physical issues. And I think he was being overplayed. He wanted to obviously keep playing. Carlo Ancelotti, I think, tried to manage that as best as he could. But nonetheless, he looked tired as well, I think, in the Euros. Perhaps he didn't get enough rest going into that, but obviously a lot of responsibility on someone as good as him going into that tournament. So I just think that he's maybe in need of a little bit more rest, or at least something, because he hasn't quite woken up to be that same player that he was last season. He hasn't even scored yet in La Liga. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just briefly, Semra, because you mentioning Mbappe, you talk about Mbappe, you've got to talk about Lewandowski in the same breath, really. I mean, because Lewandowski's almost my age, and he's got 17 in all competitions, 10 in his last 5, and Mbappe's got 1 in his last 5.
Right.
I mean, you can't help but compare and contrast.
And you know what? I think looking at the Clásico is a perfect way to describe what's happening with these two players. Mbappe was caught offside 8 times. 8 times against Barcelona. Yes, he went on to score twice, but it was disallowed and all of that. You look at Lewandowski, you look at the first goal, how smart, how intelligent he was in making that run. He could see the offside line, so he made a couple of steps back to create that space to make sure that he would stay onside. Mendy helped to keep him onside. And then he makes that run and he's able to score and it's good. And obviously this is a player with a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge. He still has that fabulous instinct that a striker has, that Dean was talking about, somebody coming off the bench to provide that instinct, that killer smell, that who knows how to get in the box at the right time and to score those goals when you need them. Mbappe clearly still has a lot to learn. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's one of the best players in the world. That will come with time. But I think it's certainly demonstrated where these two are at right now with their respective sides. And let's not forget that Lewandowski in general is now being nourished. He's now being fed. He's now being serviced, which is something that wasn't really happening that much last season. That's part of the reason why he wasn't hitting those numbers that we're used to seeing from him. Yes, physically, he's much better now. But apart from that, he's getting the service from Rafinha. He's getting the service from Lamine Yamal. He's getting it from Dani Olmo. He's getting it from Fermin. It's coming from a lot of different places. And that has to do with the tactical changes of Hansi Flick. And Barcelona are a completely different beast now. And so in the case of Mbappe, he's still oftentimes a little bit too isolated. He still hasn't quite figured out how to work with Vinicius or Jude Bellingham, for example. He's still not necessarily always making the right choices, maybe being a little bit too selfish at times. So it is fascinating to see where they are, but there's no question that with time, Mbappe will change, and he probably, we hope anyway, that he will hit the same heights that he was hitting with PSG circa 2022. That's it.
Semra, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a good one, guys.
And you too. By the way, I mentioned Ancelotti under pressure there. I saw a lot of papers linking Xabi Alonso with the Real Madrid job, should it come up. 658 03717 223344. Manchester United fans, we want to hear from you. Was that loss at West Ham at the weekend the final straw, or were there positives to take? Give us a call. We'll be focusing on Eric Ten Hag next.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.